the school's image and have to carry the school's failure with them. And then another thing I learned that I'm just drawing from my POL packet, is I learned that a lot of weird things can happen under the category of social justice. Also, a lot of great things can happen if curriculum and school culture is centered around social justice. But that's not surprising, so I'm not putting that in my things I've learned category. So I've noticed sloppiness, carelessness, and arrogance in the name of social justice, and I've seen humbleness, carefulness, uncertainty, and the space for complexity and difference lost and not asked about or missed in the name of social justice. I think people who can speak the language of social justice can rise to the top in a way that is unjust, and I think social justice anything can be resistant to criticism and questioning in a way that is unjust. So those are things that I learned. And then this is my this is from my site evaluation, and it's sort of my answer to the question of, would you recommend that this site continue to host a member? So I recommend that PFSJ host one member. The dynamics that come up when 3 different members are at PFSJ doing the same job with very little structure are too complex and too much work for overworked and undersupported PFSJ staff to deal with well. If it can't be done well, then let's not do it. Let's just have one member who is given support, structure, and guidance regardless of how well they can navigate white professional expectations, norms, and culture. And so then I wanted to kind of define a little bit what I mean when I say white professional expectations, norms, and culture, which I think is a powerful force in the AmeriCorps program and probably at most of our sites, so it's good to bring up. And so I'm just going to read from this article that Matt and Allison handed out about white supremacy culture, just to define what I mean when I say white professionalism. So this article says, it has a list of characteristics of white supremacy culture that show up in our organizations. Culture is powerful precisely because it is so present, and at the same time, so very difficult to name or identify. The characteristics listed below are damaging because they are used as norms and standards without being proactively named or chosen by the group. They are damaging because they promote white supremacy thinking. Because we all live in a white supremacy culture, these characteristics show up in the attitudes and behaviors of all of us, people of color and white people. Therefore, these attitudes and behaviors can show up in any group or organization, whether it is white-led or predominantly white, or people of color-led or predominantly people of color. So just some examples of ways that white supremacy culture, white professionalism, would show up specifically is perfectionism, a sense of urgency, defensiveness in response to new or challenging ideas, worship of the written word. So those with strong documentation and writing skills are more highly valued. The idea that there's only one right way to do things. Fear of open conflict, and individualism. I'm skipping some. And a right to comfort, so the belief that those with power have a right to emotional and psychological comfort. Yeah. So going back to my recommendation, I said that I think that we should have one member who is given support, structure, and guidance regardless of how well they can navigate white professionalism. And to be clear, I can navigate white professionalism pretty well, which means I'm less likely to challenge it and resist it, and I'm more likely to receive support within it. But in so many ways, I feel like Erica has been made to feel like a problem because she is excluded from white professionalism and because she resists it. This isn't a problem. Erica is an incredible attribute to PFSJ. She supports the students in